Well,
As
Eddie,
2026, yeah, we're here. Well, as 2026 begins, Canada finds itself pulled into a widening storm. U.S. power plays abroad, unsettling rhetoric closer to home, and a federal political landscape that could shift overnight.
that it could, very much so. And tonight we cut through the noise, what Trump's latest moves mean for Canada, whether Ottawa is ready for what's coming, and where the political numbers really stand.
Yeah, and yes, after all of that, we'll talk hockey. From Mazatlan, Mexico, I'm Eddie Tekalik.
And at home in base Montreal, I'm Gary MacDonald. This is Night Talk Canada, episode 65. Let's get started. All right. So let's have a chat about our friend Donald Trump. Well, maybe a lot of people would not call him our friend. But Donald Trump is once again pushing U.S. power outward, this time toward Venezuela with talk of reviving oil production and democracy under American influence, and renewed threats toward other nations, familiar rhetoric about Greenland, and echoes of the 51st state language for us here in Canada. Well, this isn't distant foreign policy, it's a warning sign. The question tonight: how exposed is Canada when U.S. politics turn aggressive again? So let's have a look at something, Eddie. Back on Saturday morning, we all awoke to the breaking news scenarios of the I call it the invasion of Venezuela. Yeah, maybe they didn't hang around full tilt, but still they went in. They snatched the president and his wife. The word kidnap has been used on more than one occasion in relation to this operation, and whisked them off to New York City, where they have been in court over the last couple of days. Trump actually did have a news conference later in the morning at Mar-a-Lago, and this is how it all started.
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
All began, and then later. Well, let's talk a little bit about that first, and how the buildup has been there. It all started with an issue that you and I discussed on a couple of occasions before Christmas, and that was when they were bombing the so-called drug boats out of the water in both the Atlantic coast and on the Pacific coast of the U.S. as well, but out in international waters. No solid evidence, Eddie, to my mind, has ever been offered that those boats that they actually hit were carrying drugs. And if you recall, there was one where the order was given and it filtered down through to one of the top ranking officers who shouldered the blame for it. But the order was given, there were a couple of survivors, take them out, and they did.
Yeah.
There were some protests, words of protest, but the international community, for the large part, was basically silent.
Yes, it
And
was.
yeah, I couldn't believe what I was not hearing from the international community about this the operation on both coasts and taking these boats out. So that to me emboldened Trump to move forward even more so. And he's saying, to hell with international law, to hell with maritime law, to hell with any law, which he already has in his own country, and let's just move forward. So all of a sudden, bang, here we go. And he keeps talking about the drugs coming in from Venezuela, and on it goes. And then we have the operation to go in and take the drug lord and his wife out.
Right.
Boom. And there are a couple of things that come to my mind, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it because you've been traveling kind of in between while all of this was happening. And
Yeah.
so we haven't had a chance to really have a talk about it. But also, you're in Mexico, and you mentioned the other day about reading some of the Mexican newspapers and listening to some of the Mexican media because Trump is, and we'll get into this in more detail in a few minutes, but Trump is threatening pretty much everyone in the Western Hemisphere at the moment. So what sort of feeling are you getting in Mexico?
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, most of the bits and pieces I've been picking up has been from the local newspapers, and they're Scheinbaum, President Scheinbaum here. I think out of pretty much most of the people that you and I would expect to condemn the United States heavily from the onset of the small speedboat bombings or fishing boat bombings, as you mentioned earlier on. We didn't hear any condemnation there. And you know what? We've heard kind of light, polite condemnation on the attack on Venezuela as opposed to absolute firm condemnation, like outrage, as a matter of fact, is the words, the type of wording I would like to have heard. Uh, Claudia Scheinbaum is pretty defiant. She has not supported what President Trump has done in the United States has done. She's basically saying that they absolutely under no terms do they want boots on the ground here, uh, flagged as assistance by the United States to deal with the drug cartels here. So they seem to be pretty firm in their resolve in ensuring that um, uh, the country of Mexico remains sovereign without foreign influence. Um, and we really didn't have an opportunity to speak to too many Mexican locals yet in terms of what's been going on here in Mazatlan. But over the next couple of weeks, as we start going to some of the restaurants, we'll be seeing a lot of Canadian expats here. We'll probably run into some American people here, and I'm sure the conversation will start at some point in terms of what's going on in this world. So most of the pushback is from Claudia Scheinbaum, who has been pretty much the most vocal. And then of course you have the rest of the South American nations, or the nations that are uh, in the crosshairs of the American government. The Colombian president pretty much said, and they actually had that on the second page here in one of the Mexican newspapers. The president of Colombia basically says, "Come and get me." He's basically egging El Maestro Presidente Trump to come and get him. Whether he's going to do it or not, time will tell, Gary. But you know what? I don't think there's anything out of the question right now for this totalitarian regime. Because look, it does not seem like the United States that you and I grew up with, the pillar for democracy in the world. It's far from that right now, and a lot of the Mexican newspaper also quoting Claudia Scheinbaum in saying that she doesn't recognize the interim presidency of Venezuela right now, and calling to put somebody in power that's elected and proposed by the people of Venezuela, as opposed to by the de facto occupier of the country, being the United States of America. They may not have the boots on the ground there in terms of an occupational force with boots on the ground, but you know what? They've got a major carrier group just off the coast of Venezuela. They can
Yep.
rule the country from there very, very, very easily. All it takes is a push of a button, and you'll have, a couple of dozen $500,000 missiles raining down on them very, very quickly. So it is an occupied country, no boots in the ground, but they're basically being controlled by the naval forces that are just off the coast of Venezuela right now. So yeah, right now Mexico, they're being defiant. They're being protective of their sovereignty. They're being protective of their borders, and only time will tell whether the dictator in chief is actually going to do something. And unfortunately, the method of operations, the way he works is, unless you kiss the ring and kiss it twice and kiss it hard and thank him for it, you don't push his buttons in terms of A, trying to insult him, B, not following his directives, and C, making fun of him. He does not do very well with that. So Gary, I guess only time will tell, and I'm looking forward to speaking to some of the locals here to see and hear what they feel about this.
It's funny. You would think with all of the orange paste he has on his face and head that he would have a much thicker skin now than what he really does have.
Yeah.
Now, the picture you see in the middle of the screen is the picture. That's how it was announced to the world by the Trumpster on his Truth Social, before even the formal news conference later in the morning. This is how it was announced, just after they arrested him, put him in cuffs, and they were herding him out to the helicopter to ferry him off to the aircraft carrier, drop him off somewhere else, and then fly him by jet to New York.
Right.
So,
but it's the irony of the whole thing too, though, Gary. I mean, I mean, for our viewers and you and I in our discussions, I mean, Maduro was a vicious dictator. Okay, there's no
Yep.
question about that. And him being out of power is a good thing for the country. Him being taken out of power is a good thing for the country. It's how he was ousted that's in question internationally right now. I know I have a few Venezuelan friends who, are basically saying, erring on the side of caution and saying, look, Maduro out of that president's chair is not a bad thing. Let's just give this some time. The problem is give this some time. Right now we have his vice president, Maduro's vice president, that's in charge, who follows his doctrines and policies, who can be just as bad until Donald Trump decides who's actually going to be in power of Venezuela. And look, you and I both know that whoever is going to be in power has to kiss the ring and basically hand over all the natural resources of Venezuela for the United States to exploit. Because at the end of the day, Gary, there is no one in this world that has any sense, that doesn't see this invasion for what it actually was and is. It's about oil. There is a running joke right now that George Carlin once said, and he didn't actually say it, but it makes perfect sense. The United States is a big oil company that happens to own an army.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
how much clearer can that picture get? Because that's exactly what happened.
yeah. Apparently, he didn't notify Congress, but he did have conversations with some of the CEOs of big oil companies in the States to let them know that they'd soon have Venezuelan oil, just before this whole operation took place. Well, we didn't notify Congress. There were too many leaks coming through Congress. Yeah.
But this
And
is
you know,
oil
the other
buddies.
thing that's in the background too, Eddie, is not only is it about oil, it's also about, this has taken, have you heard anything about the Epstein files lately in the last couple of days?
No, not really.
No, no, that's another part of the move. But the big thing is, it is oil, and again, there's a couple of things I'll bring up about that. But first, you mentioned about the Colombian president saying, "Come and get me." Well,
Right.
this popped up on social media the other day as well. Right, I can't play the audio, so I'll have to cut the audio off because there's copyrighted music in it, and we don't want to get a copyright strike. So just enjoy the sounds of silence in what you see. You'll be able to piece it together, no problem.
Venga por mí. Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
Yeah.
And that was put to maybe the 70s, I think. So rock music. And then on top of that, there's one more. We're not done. This is on Trump's Truth Social.
Okay.
Watch this one. And this one is put to CCR's Fortunate Son from the 60s, the Vietnam era. Here we go. Oops. Looking down to the top of the lyrics line. It's just. This is an idea too. I guess it's so that maybe so. The word civilians grow in this. Enough of that, but that'll give you an idea as to what exactly went on. And this is posted.
These things that this man posts, war is ugly. War is supposed to be ugly.
Right.
How do you go about promoting the bombing of anything? Okay. It because he posts it, excuse me, because he posts it, it makes it okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, just promoting and with rock music, which I'm sure that the members of these musicians are not happy that their music is being used in context of making war with another country, with killing people in another country, with killing fine, they might be soldiers under a dictatorship, but there are usually civilians working in these establishments where these people live, servants, or people doing services and cleaning the palace or whatever else the case is. How many innocent people died in this? And here you have the president of a country basically glorifying an act of war like it was a music video. It's just unheard of, and it basically speaks to just the insanity of the entire situation. We can go through another 12 areas of the American regime right now, which is just completely against what you and I would consider human decency. I mean, that's another 15 shows we can spend an hour and a half on. But just in the wake of making war on fishing boats that have never been proven to be transporting cocaine, then all of a sudden, you're going after the drug lords and you're kidnapping the president of a sovereign state and extraditing him into the United States to face trial in a court in New York. In New York, this is just completely unheard of. And you know what? I think there was a lot of there was condemnation, but very light condemnation, and it kind of
Right.
cycles back what you were saying at the beginning. Why? Why are countries afraid to confront Trump on the international stage? Is it still because of these damn tariffs that he's imposing on a lot of these countries, and they don't want to rattle the cage because they're all in the process and midst of negotiation in trying to restructure and solidify and fix the economic mess that this moron has made of the world economy? So and don't forget, you know what? As demented and as stupid as he may come across in a lot of his conversations and a lot of his dialogue, this is the mark of a genius mob boss. Mob bosses are not the most educated of people. We all know that. Okay. However, they are extremely streetwise and intelligent in that sense. So you look at everything that's been going on over the past year, this is the mark of a very smart mob boss with absolutely zero scruples or humanity in him, which makes him that much more dangerous to deal with on a global scale, Gary. I'm just completely overwhelmed. I've been trying to stay away from the media because Manila and I are wintering here in the South, and it's pretty hard to enjoy anything here when you see the travesties that are going on in the rest of the world. Yeah, namely right now, in Venezuela and all the atrocities that are being committed on American soil by his own people. And then you got all the shit that's happening over in the Middle East, and then you have the stuff that's going on over in Europe. It's just completely unhinged and unchecked, where you and I, as citizens of the Americas, if you want to call it, or North America, always felt safe that we had Big Brother looking after us. And up until this idiot came into power, we no longer have a Big Brother looking after us. Big Brother's not looking after anybody. And
Big Brother's
it's
looking
very
after
depressing and
himself
disappointing.
and a very close circle of buddies. That's it. Let's go to the comments. We do have a couple of comments. I want to get some of them on here. Okay, so Deborah says, I think the Venezuelans who are happy now will be crying in their soup. Trump left all the cronies there, and I'm sure when he starts deporting Venezuelans, which he has served notice he will be, he'll be sending many to their deaths. And then she also added to that video, the one of the attacks. That video is a disgrace. Hope the next guy has better aim. Referring to the situation back in the summer last year when he was on the campaign trail. To which I call the staged assassination attempt. And
it was great advertisement for Heinz.
Yeah. And Monel says he said it like he said it was like watching TV. That's right. When he was watching, because they had the feeds from the choppers and the drones and the fighter jets coming into a room they had set up in Mar-a-Lago. And that's those were some of the shots that I had on earlier of them watching what was going down at the time. Yeah, it was just another day at the office. Maybe I can't see Trump using a phone like an iPhone to play some games on, because I don't think he has the ability to. He's nimble enough with his fingers.
Right.
But it was, he looked more tired than he did look concerned or on edge, as you should be watching something like that going down, because not only are people going to be killed on the ground, but you're hoping like hell that you don't lose any of your attack force going in.
Hmm.
And when you look at it, he didn't go to Congress. He had no real authority from what I can see and understand, and everything that I've gleaned from so-called experts who have been espousing their views on the various news channels, that he had no real authority from Congress to go ahead and pull a strike like that. And when you get right down to it, still, sure, maybe drugs were coming in through Venezuela, and but by the same token, like, did it did it register an attack like we witnessed? And what has been gained when you leave 3/4 or better of the same regime behind in charge
Yeah.
with oversight from you guys? So you know what that oversight is? You pay me a little scratch here and there, and we can ignore this, that, or the other thing, and once in a while we'll slap you on the wrist. But other than that, it's game on and business as usual. And secondly, not only this came up during his crap over fentanyl crossing the Canadian border into the U.S. Okay, drugs are coming into your country. What the hell are you doing? Why, instead of blowing these boats out of the water in international waters with, sending half of your Navy down to do it, why aren't you patrolling your coastlines, patrolling your coastal borders better? Why? Yeah, maybe they came across our line, but you're the one who let them in. It was your side that let them in on your side.
And not only that, Gary. So fine, you have all of this drugs that's coming in internationally by whatever channels, okay? So this drug is going to who? Who's buying these drugs for further distribution? And I read something not too long ago. It was some sort of an FBI document that essentially said that 60 to 70% of the people that take in these drugs in the United States for further distribution to the population to buy are American citizens. These are your local American, born in the USA people that are buying all of these drugs from the cartels for further distribution. So what are you doing to corral these people? Which begs the question, you're not patrolling your waters like you're saying, Gary. Well, what are you doing to stem the tide of further distribution once it actually makes it onto U.S. soil? That's point number one.
Yeah.
Point number two, what are you doing to help these people that are hooked on these drugs to get them off of this so the drug cartels have nowhere to sell them anymore? Right? And three, here's the worst part of it. There's my conspiracy theory going into play here. Trump is taking a cut, or going to take a cut, of any drugs coming out of Venezuela in his own pocket. I'm sorry, I said it. I don't care. That's what I'm thinking as well. So he's going to line his pockets with natural resources, and he's going to line his pockets with whatever mob scheme he's going to put into play in Venezuela, and line his pockets even further.
Well, here's the other thing, Eddie. Some of the biggest customers for cocaine travel within the Trump circle.
Ah, that too.
So how much cocaine do you think will be cut off coming into the U.S.? He is so full of shit when he opens his mouth and talks about things like this, and pardon my language, but that's just the way it is, that how anyone in that country could even say to you, to your face, that they remotely believe a word coming out of that guy's mouth. Anyhow.
Well, here's the kicker. 38%, he still has 38% of support from the polls that are being taken of how he's handling himself as a president. And not too long ago, there was also some poll conducted in the United States nationwide about American support of this attack on the on Venezuela and what they just did. It was over 60%, a resounding 60% of people, registered Republicans, support what President Trump has just done. Holy shit, Gary! Like that knocked me on my ass. I mean, I just could not believe that.
So, first of all, Monel says, Gary, he doesn't care if he loses his people. He doesn't care if he kills other people. This man does not care about any human beings. Totally agree with that, Monel. He really doesn't. He cares about Donald Trump. And he might have a little bit of empathy for people around him as long as they're useful to him. If they're not useful to him, that's it. Game over. So, let's go to another clip from that news conference, because Trump was asked by a reporter about the difference between Maduro and a pardon he issued to another drug lord a month ago. This was his response.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
The man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
Like, really? Seriously?
I hadn't seen that. I don't know what to say. Never answered the question.
No.
I this and I that. I did this quickly. You know what? The man, it was proven that he was shipping tons and tons and tons of drugs over the United States, and he got pardoned. And by the way, I mean it's a known fact that Trump sells pardons. By the way, right? You give him a few million, he'll give you a pardon. Like what the hell, man? But you know what? I'm surprised that in the pool of reporters that Trump now allows to interview him, or actually in the White House press corps, actually had the cojones to ask that question. And he didn't call him a little bitch or a little whatever the hell, a little piggy or whatever else. That was a damn good question. He didn't answer a damn thing, but you know what? I'm pleased that somebody actually asked it.
Well, absolutely. It was the elephant in the room that had to be addressed, and it was not addressed, which, like you say, Eddie, dollars are exchanging hands here somewhere. Yeah, and that's let's just quickly go to the comments again for a second. And Deborah says, translated, he paid me lots of money. That summarizes it, just as you said, Eddie. There's no doubt that money was exchanging hands. Trump is not in it for the good of the American country, the United States. Trump is in it for the good of Donald J. Trump, period. And not even his family, really. If they happen to be clinging on and making a few bucks along the way, great. But in the meantime, he used the stage on Saturday, then again on Sunday on Air Force One to throw out again the threats to Colombia, Greenland, and he's really focused on Greenland, and they laughed. Trump and Lutnick there laughed.
Right.
And that's what I'm calling, because Lutnick is a nut. Lutnick.
Yeah.
They laughed about it.
Nothing.
How do you laugh about something like that?
True. No, absolutely. I
This,
mean, you know
this,
what? They laugh about it. I mean, you know what? If you're going to threaten the country, don't joke around about it like it's a laugh. You can't even hold a serious face for something as critical as invading another country's territory. It's a
exactly.
joke. This whole joke. They're so above the law, Gary, right now, so above the law that nothing is impeding them. You got Schumer doing absolutely nothing as Democratic House leader. I mean, absolutely nothing. He has to be
Exactly.
on the tape. I just cannot believe that this guy does. He doesn't even, even the most friendliest of countries to the United States condemned Donald Trump. This guy is his opposition, supposed to be representing the sanity of the United States, doesn't even condemn him. I just don't get it. The whole government is in total disarray in the United States. Nothing is
The,
going to stop.
the
What are you
the
going to do?
fact of the matter is, Eddie,
How
there
are you
is
going to
no
stop
government in the United States at the moment. It's just
it?
a corporation. Well, not even a corporation. It's a mob family
Yes,
headed
yes,
by Trump. There's no government really in the United States of America at the moment. The power sits right there in the Oval Office in the White House with Bozo and the yes people that he has surrounded himself with. That's it.
hmm
That's like, I mean, when we were talking about this sort of thing this time last year, just before he was sworn in, because it'll be a year later this month that he was sworn in,
right.
and we were looking at the trade war that we were staring down the barrel of, and what kind of implications that would have, and he was going on about fentanyl crossing the border and blah blah blah. Really, look how far it's gone since then. And in between, he tariffs an island that's has nothing but penguins. The poor penguins were going to be paying tariffs to the United States.
Right.
When that comes out, what was wrong with the sane people in that country who said, like, wait a minute, like, how ridiculous is this? They're living in some kind of screwed up horror / comedy movie of some sort.
They're
Some of it
watching a
is
reality
funny.
show starring Donald Trump.
Yeah,
His supporters are watching a reality show uh, featuring Donald Trump. That's exactly what it is. Uh, it's like he's, head of some sort of a reality show, and his reality show is the country. I mean, that's his platform, and people are lapping it up. Oh, that's just Donald. You just attacked the country for crying out loud. You know, I don't know. I'm just so much at a loss for words. I'm just disillusioned about the whole thing and the whole state of affairs, and I just have to blame that. Donald Trump is a huge part for a lot of the ugliness of the world, and the ugliness of the United States is being put on display openly for the rest of the world to see. I mean, you click in on other media around the planet, and they're all seeing and reading the same thing we're seeing. How awful things are in the United States, and what implications it has in countries around the world. And quite honestly, I, along with probably well over a billion people, wake up every morning and look at the obituary to see if there's any good news in there. I mean, it's that's sad to say. That's literally what happens. It's supposed to say, "Hey, good morning. How are you today?" It's like, "Hey, any good news in the obituary?" I mean, what an insane way for the world to view itself in terms of, you know, is the
yeah,
world going to get better this year? I don't. It's going to be very, very hard to believe. One can only hope, but Gary didn't start off very well. There
nope,
we go. We had the first
nope.
missiles in a sovereign nation in North America openly attacked.
And Greenland being threatened now with military. And he
Yeah,
on Air Force One the other day said, well, that will be doing something there within the next 2 months. Meanwhile, Stephen Miller, is it Stephen Miller?
Pee-wee German, yeah.
One of his top advisors, who is a real nutcase. I watched him last night in an interview on CNN.
He's scary.
He's right out of it. Right out of it. It's like he's on some of the nose candy that Trump is so-called trying to cut off, right? Anyhow, he was on there and going on about this. I just cannot believe some of the comments that are being made by the people who are in the tight-knit circle around Trump. And these are advisors? Jeez.
Yeah.
Let's catch up on a couple of more comments. Jen comes in. Of course, I mentioned about the penguins being tariffed by Trump. Jen says the poor penguins.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, because I love penguins. And Ivanka says, so very true. He only cares about what he wants. He is a bully and a dictator. And welcome. Thank you for popping in and making a comment tonight. And then we have Deborah, who says, if you have drugs crossing your border patrol is not doing their job. Bang on. Absolutely. So then also now, so we've got Colombia, we have Greenland.
And we
He
have
mentioned
us.
Panama again. Panama has been, he mentioned that before he was sworn in about taking over the canal.
The canal, right?
Yeah, so he mentioned that again this weekend. And then, of course, the 51st state.
There's us.
Yep. And I think that the response has been muted. And I don't think it's so much right now the trade war. I think the response overall across the world has been muted because they know they're dealing with some kind of a whack case that has the codes. And the only thing separating us between him and the codes is the U.S. military, whose sworn duty is not to the president as commander-in-chief. Their sworn duty is to the Constitution of the United States of America.
Right.
Which apparently Trump can't read, because he's ignored everything and broken every article pretty much in it. Oh, right. Monel said, don't forget about Cuba. Yes, I almost forgot about Cuba. Thank you, Monel. How could I forget about that? But that's, we don't know who's next. But I'm thinking...
He's so unpredictable. I mean, how often have I told you, Gary, I'm afraid of his next bowel movement because we don't know what's going to happen right after that.
Yeah, exactly.
You
know? And the other side of it is, they intercepted 2 tankers today trying to get out of Venezuela, and they were being escorted by Russian boats. I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to read what type of boats, but I presume Russian Navy boats. But Putin's got his hands tied right now. His resources are full in on the Ukraine. He's got himself into a mess, and he's having a hard time digging out of the hole that he has created in the Ukraine. So the only real punch he has to get engaged in, he can't really get engaged in another ground war somewhere. His only punch would be to get the keys out and push the buttons.
Right.
And I don't think, as much as he threatens it, I don't think he's ready to go quite that far yet.
Yeah. Well, that's the key word, Gary. Yet.
Yeah.
He's got the capacity to do it, though.
Yep. And then you have the Chinese on the other side. So who knows? Anyway, I just, okay, Monel says it was a Russian submarine. I just want to go back to something here. to just, we're talking about the oil, and of course, Canada's concerned because it could cut into our sales to the U.S. as well. Oh, there we go. Oh, how'd you get into my shot?
I'm looking good. You're looking good today, Gary.
Yeah, okay, that's bizarre. Anyway, we'll go back. Eddie, you can sit, there we go. But I really do want to share this part of it. And just so that we get a feel for what's happening here. Market share and production. Because there is a lot of concern about the impact on Canadian oil sales from Alberta. Okay, so daily production. Canada, we're producing 5 million barrels per day. Venezuela, 1 million barrels per day as of this month. Right. Exports to the U.S., Canada, 4,500,000 barrels per day. Venezuela, 120,000 to 500,000 barrels per day. And of course, those exports to the U.S. have fluctuated wildly due to recent blockades and shifting sanctions. Mm-hmm. That's on that side of it. So then we go to proven reserves. Canada, 170 billion barrels. Venezuela, 300 billion barrels. That's the thing that people are thinking, that Venezuela is sitting on the largest stash of crude oil in the world. Now, I watched a guy, don't shame me, I watched a guy on TikTok earlier today, and the guy works in the oil fields in Alberta. And I watched one of his other videos, and he really did seem to know what he was talking about. He came out with the fact that the 300 billion barrels that Venezuela is claiming, he said, there's no real hard evidence that much oil exists. That was a number when the leader was asked one day about it, came up with that number. Now, I don't know, this is proven reserves, and this is information that's based on information that's being passed to investors and so on to make decisions. So right now I'm going with the 300 billion barrels, but everything that I learned from this guy in his TikToks, the others that I watched, made a lot of sense. He really did know what he was talking about. He wasn't a fly-by-night person. So there may be some discrepancy there. And the primary U.S. region where the oil's going to go, Canada, it's the Midwest and the Gulf Coast. They do have some refineries in the Midwest that manufacture or refine the heavy oil. Venezuela, it's the Gulf Coast. Now,
Texas.
Yeah. The refineries in Texas were built to refine the Venezuelan oil, which is very similar to Canadian heavy oil, but the Canadian heavy oil is a little bit different.
Bitumen or something like that?
Yeah, and they made the changes that needed to be made and to refine the Canadian oil. However, if they do get the oil flowing from Venezuela to the Texas coast, it's 4 or 5 days by tanker tops.
Right.
And then we're talking about coming through Canada. And I did not realize this until I did the research on it yesterday. Coming through Canada by pipeline, it takes weeks for the oil to come from Alberta through the pipeline down to the Texas coast, to the Texas refineries.
Didn't know that.
No, I didn't either. Now, the other side of it is, the one thing is, Eddie, oil coming from Venezuela, it's not going to get to the Midwest refineries. And we've got the pipelines going into the Midwest refineries. Now, I've seen numbers tossed around about if they do get Venezuela pumping oil out and going back into the States, that it would have maybe about a 10% impact on our sales. But a 10% impact as far as when you look at the royalties and everything going into the Alberta coffers and then even the federal coffers is a fair chunk of change, for sure. So there is that aspect. But Trump's bragging about, we'll get it up and running within 18 months. You just don't build oil infrastructure in 18 months. Hell, we can't even get Olympic venues finished on time in 4 years.
Yeah. And who at this particular stage, in terms of the oil companies, which are very interested in oil because they did pay $100 million to his campaign,
Yeah.
how many times does a company invest in a country that's completely destabilized and get a return on investment from that? There's a big risk associated with that too, right?
Yeah, very much so, because what's going to happen is once they start sending oil to the U.S., that's more oil on the market. And more oil on the market is because demand has dropped over the last couple of years for oil. So the more oil going onto the market is going to drive down the price. Well, when you drive down the price of oil, and it's already down as it is, but when you drive down the price of oil, then they're going to be really struggling to get any kind of return on the billions of dollars of investment that Trump is talking about to rebuild the infrastructure in Venezuela. It's almost like he's that stupid that he can't see his nose in front of his face. But then again, this is a guy who bankrupted casinos. So
which doesn't happen anywhere else on the planet.
Exactly. How can you take any kind of business type of advice or pressure from somebody like that? These oil execs are going, and he has a meeting with them on Friday at the White House. These oil execs are going to go in. They might blow smoke up his butt for a few minutes, but they're probably going to go in with some harsh realities, and he's going to be beat off big time.
You know what him and his him and his state-controlled media are going to control that. Are going to control that dialogue, no question about it. They're going to spin it into a positive, and Trump supporters are just going to lap it up. It's just Donald Trump. He's the top guy when it comes to the art of the deal. How do I know? Because I heard it on Fox. Well, there you go. That's about the extent of his supporters' wisdom in a lot of cases. So, very, very, very interesting times are going to be coming up. I just like you, I'm looking forward to hearing what the oil executives and the oil barons in the United States are going to be doing with this. You know what? And I sincerely hope it wasn't just a case of Trump exercising his ego and using the military to get into Venezuela. He has oil on his mind without actually backing from the American oil companies that they're in fact going to go in there. And just cycling back to what we said half an hour ago, this just could be another attempt at covering up the travesties and Trump's association with the Epstein files. And I think a few days ago, my wife mentioned that Pam Bondi says they're going to be releasing the files in 4 years or over the next 4 years. What the hell is that? So you want to talk about being above the law? Congress voted a proposal to table the law, and the President of the United States signed it into law, and he's actually ignoring the law that he signed into action. It was already supposed to release everything, and she comes out on whatever media that it's going to be released in 4 years. Well, no, Gary, at the end of the day, Congress can't do anything. So you know what? Donald, okay, the Democratic majority at some point, we're going to be impeaching you. You know what Donald's going to say? So what? I'm not
Exactly.
going anywhere. What are they going to have to do? The guys in the white suits with the truck outside at the with the cherry on top come in a straight jacket and take him out? That's not going to happen. This man, this man is how different is he from Maduro?
Well,
Really?
exactly. He's not.
He's not going to leave. No matter, you know what? Next November is coming up. Great. You know, there might be a sweep where Congress is going to be manned by Democrats, and we're going to be hoping some action from them. When you have morons like Chuck Schumer in charge, and he's going to be in charge of that, not much is going to happen. And you know what? They've been powerless now. They're going to be powerless, I think, after the landslide, the Democrats winning the landslides coming next midterm election, and they're going to do nothing with it because what are you going to do? You're going to send the FBI after him. You're going to send the police after him. Who are you going to send? Who are you going to get him removed from office? Secret Service is sworn to protecting the president. Gary, it's ridiculous. And the word that comes into my mind that I hope never happens, it's freaking civil war. This is the basis and the recipe that can genuinely leave countries that are not as strong as the United States. That typically leads to civil war. Now, can you imagine 340 or 350 million Americans, where there's what twice as much guns in the United States as there is people? Can you imagine a civil war?
Yeah.
And then you and I, in this beautiful country of ours called Canada, having to watch our neighbor down south going through a civil war. How long do you think before that spills over into Canada?
Well, exactly. That's
I don't know. I
that's
mean,
the real
I know I'm
danger.
kind of going off on a tangent here, but it's just damn scary.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of this is going to roll over into segment 2 because Carney's response, I think, was, well, we'll get into it in segment 2. Let's end it this way.
All right.
Little thought. What happens in Venezuela doesn't stay in Venezuela. U.S. power moves affect energy prices, global stability, and the safety of Canadians abroad. So we've got to be prepared and be able to react to whatever comes next.
Yeah.
Up next, Carney's political tightrope walk with the numbers. All right, can't do that. Okay, so I just wanted to pass along something, and that is remember to like, subscribe, and follow to help expose our conversation to more people. And if you're enjoying what you see, you can buy us a coffee to show your support. Simply scan the link in the description below. And Eddie and I thank you for your support.
Absolutely. Gary loves his coffee, and I love my coffee too. So thank you for your support. Well, Gary, as Canada enters 2026, the political map in Ottawa is really razor thin. Mark Carney's path to a majority could very well hinge on a single floor crossing, but that advantage could disappear just as quickly if key MPs resign. All of this is unfolding as Canada responds, again, cautiously to Trump's move in Venezuela. Is Ottawa playing it smart or signaling uncertainty at the worst possible time and moment?
Yeah. First of all, there was breaking news just before we started the stream, and that is that Chrystia Freeland has announced she will resign as an MP on Friday. Now, originally it looked like it wouldn't be for a few weeks when Vladimir Zelensky announced earlier this week that she was going to become a special assistant to him. Yeah. And she apparently had notified the Prime Minister on Christmas Eve that this was going to be taking place, and there seemed to be some kind of a breakdown in communication because Zelensky announced it just as the summit was opening in Paris. But it seemed to have caught the PMO off guard, and I think it may have even caught Freeland a little bit off guard as well, because the responses to this were a little awkward on this end of the conversation, to say the least. And the Prime Minister was asked about it when he held a news conference with reporters in Paris just earlier this week as to what's going on with Freeland at that point.
Ms. Freeland, Krista has served our country for well over a decade in a formal role as a parliamentarian, certainly in a number of ministerial posts, and served with great distinction. She was, I had her as my special envoy after she left cabinet for the Ukraine reconstruction. Judgment became her judgment that she could be more useful for that process as she was leaving, as she was retiring as a parliamentarian, as a direct advisor. My judgment was that taking that role would be consistent with resigning as an MP, and I welcomed her doing that, and I'm pleased that for Ukraine.
So, part of the in another part of that response, when he would get into the greater scheme of things, he was talking about, well, we're probably going to have a few empty seats this spring, and we're probably going to have a few by-elections this spring, and we will be running top-notch candidates, and the people will make their choice. So, it's no secret that there are a few Liberal MPs, former cabinet ministers of the Trudeau era, like Freeland was, who are looking for or waiting for specific appointments elsewhere as their goodbye package, and that's going to be happening sooner rather than later, and probably a little bit sooner than maybe Carney wanted, because before Christmas and coming back off Christmas until this announcement with Freeland was made, Eddie, that it was a numbers game. Okay, we've got another floor crosser from the Conservatives. Oh, we're one shy of a majority. And the speculation was that there would be at least one more Conservative MP coming across the floor between then and maybe the week before the end of this month, when Poilievre goes in for his leadership review. Mm-hmm. So it would have been strategic in that fashion. Since then, we have a Conservative MP out in the Okanagan Valley coming out over the weekend and saying that the Liberals are headhunting Conservative MPs big time and offering them goodies if they agree to come over, which gets into a real legal question as to, are you being offered bribes? And if so, that's just against the law. It's against parliamentary procedure. The Liberals have denied that. They haven't denied that they're talking. But apparently according to this one Conservative MP, and if you listen to some of the other Conservatives, the Liberals have been hard at work cold calling on Conservative MPs, trying to see who's at least thinking that maybe they're not happy in the Conservative caucus and looking for something better. And they were trying to, as Pierre Poilievre said, Carney's trying to get a majority by stealing it. Mm-hmm. Well, that could be so, but Pierre, don't be too quick to throw stones, because I think you live in a glass house too. If you were in the same position, That's not
Exactly.
an uncommon thing. And I have no doubt that you would be, or your party would be, banging on the doors
Doing the
of
thing.
Liberal MPs looking to see if you could bring a couple across the floor to get your majority. So don't try to befuddle us with that crap. You've got some issues to deal with, and it comes to a culmination at the end of the month with the leadership review. Carney, on the other hand, has some issues to deal with too. And, again, there's a lot of talk about all of these memorandums of understanding that have been signed regarding trade. And I have really tried to give him a long runway because, yes, you open the door. This is a sales job. You open the door, and once the door is open, then you go in for the final sale. But it takes time because you're building relationships, and relationships that had not been touched for 10 years under Justin Trudeau.
Yep.
Because he was too busy, with the fashion magazines and ridiculous costumes and trips to India and elsewhere, and, surfing in Tofino and on Christmas break. At least he, spent time in
Don't
Canada.
forget shopping for his goofy socks.
Yeah, but there was nothing. There was in apologizing to every group and organization that felt they had been wronged over the years, tearing down statues and stop, just stop. Enough of this. Anyway, so it's going to take, we lost standing on the international stage big time. Big time. So, it takes time to repair that damaged reputation. But also, I heard somebody say the other day about it's one thing to be doing that, but you have to spend some time at home and actually govern too and address the issues that are directly affecting Canadians at the moment. That has not really been the case. And part of that has been the fact that he's grappling with the minority government and trying to run Parliament like he has a majority government. He has
While
some
dealing
issues.
with the crap down south.
Dealing with the crap down
Takes
south.
a lot of time. Takes up a lot of time.
It's taken a lot of time, no question. However, his response on the weekend to Trump was very muted in a lot of ways. I felt that it was very slow to come out. And Anita Anand did issue a statement on behalf of Global Affairs Canada. But again, it was like, why did you waste your time? And then Carney's statement was a little more in detail. And I know what Carney was doing. He's trying to be diplomatic, walk a fine line, yes. But every once in a while, you have to roll the sleeves up a bit and take a swing. You just have to. Because we are next door, and more than an imaginary line on the map, which apparently Trump doesn't like the way it was drawn, we have to really draw a line in the sand to say, we're not going to take it. I didn't really sense that in the response that he gave. That's a personal opinion, but I know a lot of people were kind of left wondering, like, what's going on? And even some of the European leaders, their response was pretty weak as well.
Yeah. I
Almost
felt
to the
like
point
that.
of why bother?
Well, I felt like that at the beginning when I heard it at the beginning, when I reread it. At first, I'm like, wow, that's kind of tame. I'm not going to say lame. I want to say tame. I use the word tame, considering what actually happened. And it was sort of debating this with my wife and thinking about it myself, I think this is just the nature of the situation and dealing with the insanity that is Donald Trump and his entire entourage, where say the wrong thing, what consequences are we going to have to deal with in the immediate? And Gary, you know right off the bat that it would be some sort of immediate retaliation of some sort that we have absolutely zero control over. So, Carney, along with the rest of the world's leaders, basically stood behind a lot of what the United Nations has been saying, that they believe in democracy, all the key buzzwords, believe in democracy. Venezuela should be restoring their government through democracy, and those types of statements, basically not coming out right and condemning Donald Trump, and not criticizing Donald Trump, but basically saying they stand for and abide by international law, without actually pointing a finger at the United States for not abiding by international law. It's kind of like, here's our statement. Donald, why don't you read between the lines? Well, he doesn't know how to read between the lines. His people don't care about what's in between the lines. So I would agree with you in your statement. Well, what was the point? That I agree with. But I think that everyone's towing the line here because, just like you said earlier on, we don't know what is going to, consider a criticism of his policy in Venezuela as what I call a bowel movement. What's going to happen after Donald Trump has the next bowel movement? Nobody can predict it. Very unpredictable. He's got the entire world on its toes, on its edge, and they just have to be careful and be more diplomatic about it than they necessarily have to. I mean, holy smokes, Netanyahu, is getting condemnation, not critics, not criticized, condemnation globally from the world leaders in terms of what's going on there. You know what? Maybe a little of that, I would say, would have been beneficial at this particular point, but you're not going to get it because it's Donald Trump.
Yep. Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, during the news conference in Paris the other day, the Prime Minister was asked about Trump's threat to Greenland, and this is what he had to say.
The future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland and for Denmark exclusively. It's their decision. Secondly, from a NATO context, the way I would frame it is that the western flank of NATO, which would include Greenland, the Arctic, is, given the evolving threat environment, is an area that we as NATO, Canada obviously importantly, given our geography, need to invest more in. This is a point that we've been making in recent years and since I became Prime Minister that we've really stressed. And with our buildup that's just beginning of our military capabilities, we are making heavy investments in the Arctic. We'll be working with our Nordic partners. We'll be working through NATO. This is one of the issues I'll be discussing with the Secretary General as part of an ongoing discussion with him around this to further advance it. We're partners in NATO. It is a mutual defense alliance. We can provide that security. And when we look at a couple basic, there's basic principles here, which is self-determination of nations, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and then there is approaches that we have as partners to what we're trying to accomplish. And as NATO, we can provide security for all of NATO, Greenland included. And as the threat environment is changing, we're making the investments in order to do that, and we can operationalize and augment and build additional plans to do that. So, and that's what we will do. And we stand with Denmark, we stand with Greenland. Our closest partnership is with the United States, and we'll work with everybody to make sure that we move forward together.
And you know something, Eddie? I saw a headline the other day as well, where Melanie Jolie was talking about having a conversation with U.S. officials about the F-35s, and apparently to see if they can get a better deal based on the deal that Sweden has offered us. And I thought, what in the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And hopefully, after this weekend and the comments that this guy has made, that you call off that meeting. Buy the 16, ship the money over, buy the 16 of them. God knows we've wasted that much money on other things. But cut our ties with this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why are we going back? They had their best opportunity a couple of times. And then Sweden came in with a great product, one that really fits our needs, especially when it comes to the Arctic, which is an area that we really have to bolster our defense in. And we're going back to the U.S. and we're paying this exorbitant sum of money for these jets, 16 of them, and we're not even really going to own them. We're not even really leasing them. We're just handing over money, and we have to get permission to do everything, including repairs.
Right.
You know, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'll be the first to admit it. But damn it all to hell, what kind of business deal is that? And especially now.
Yeah. I get it. And you know what? And okay, so you have Carney's response, which we saw. We both have our views and opinions on that. And then maybe briefly before we jump on to our next segment, Gary, is the response by Poilievre is congratulations to the Grand Poobah of the United States. My first thought was shock. Second of all, who the hell are you? You're just leader of the opposition in Canada coming out with a statement like that, which may be misconstrued as a statement from a government official. What are you doing making a statement like that supporting the actions of the United States for what they did in Venezuela? And again, Gary, I have no problem with ousting a dictator, and he was ousted. But how it was done, international law was broken, he pretty much kidnapped somebody out of the country. And who knows what the hell is going to happen later on. The Venezuelans are not going to see a penny from oil, from increased oil production, if anything. I'm not sure the American population is going to see a penny from this. It's all going to go to the Trumpster. So
Exactly.
What are you doing in congratulating a dictator like Donald Trump? Let's call a spade, and I've said that in a long time. He is an authoritarian. The government of the United States is an authoritarian entity. It's a regime now, and it's entered that very clearly over the course of the last few days. What are you doing congratulating him? And you know what? I was still giving this man the benefit of a doubt. Okay, I want him to be a fantastic opposition leader in really holding Carney and the Liberal Party's feet to the fire to keep them in check. That's what checks and balances are all about. That's what made our governments work extremely well. Not perfect, but our governments work. Okay. What the hell are you doing? Now I'm saying, my God, thank God you didn't get elected as Prime Minister of Canada. Making a statement like that on the international stage during international outrage, it just proves to me that he would have been the worst thing for Canadians moving forward as a result of what is he trying to do? Get on the good side of Grand Poobah? What the hell kind of statement was that? It really floored me. I was really pissed at that.
And didn't the last line refer to down with socialism? Something along those lines?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What does that have to do with anything at the moment?
You know
Really?
what? The late great Brian Mulroney is turning in his grave. Uh, with a statement like that, and the statesman that he was, he's got to be rolling in his grave. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah. Well, as you have
I said Brian
witnessed in,
Mulroney, right? I did say Brian Mulroney. Yeah.
yeah, as you have witnessed in some of the comments when we've talked about Polyev in the past, we've been accused of being left leaning,
Yeah.
wearing our liberal hearts on our sleeves, kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, I've been accused of being a card-carrying member of pretty much every party provincially in New Brunswick and federally. So, yeah, obviously, I'm not coming out really one way or the other. But the fact of the matter is, I look at the local representative first, look at the party and the platform and the leader of the party, and weigh that all in perspective. And if some of the really hard right conservatives who have engaged in comments on our YouTube site, and I've responded, if you really want me to vote conservative, then give me something to vote for. And right now, I am sorry. I am not a Polyev fan by any stretch of the imagination. Frankly, if I'm a CEO and he was, the next one down in the chain, on the food chain, I would have had him out the door long before this. Well, on April 29th. I would have given him the option of handing me his resignation letter, and if he didn't, then it would have been, okay, here's your termination letter.
Right.
And they cling to the fact they increased their vote. You may have increased the vote, but you didn't win the election. You blew, and he as leader and his campaign team blew a 25-point lead going into that election. They couldn't pivot and figure out how to take on the newcomer after Trudeau went. They couldn't. He hasn't let go of Trudeau. He keeps going back to Trudeau at times during question period. So, you blew the lead. You couldn't pivot to adjust to the newcomer on the scene. Yeah, and a political, newcomer. You couldn't do that. You lost the election. Doesn't matter how many votes you increased. Big deal. You still lost the election. And you lost your seat of over 20 years.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Very simple. And your personal popularity, and never mind the personal popularity, the party is, neck and neck with the Liberals, and that's fine. But when you have people going behind that screen to mark their X, they're thinking about the guy who's at the top as well as the local guy. And they may like what the party's saying, but then they look at the smugness in the phrases, the glitzy phrases, and they're not going to vote conservative. So I say to conservatives who are going to the leadership review later this month, give me a reason to vote conservative. And I'll tell you right now, here's a broad hint to any conservatives thinking about it. The reason does not include Pierre Polyev.
Yeah.
Okay, I've said I'll stop.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry I opened that Pandora's box, but you know what, Gary? I thought it was at the tail end of our segment here. I thought it was worth a comment. I mean, we've been focusing on what Prime Minister Carney has or has not said or done. And I thought it was very appropriate to, put the leader of the official opposition in Canada as a discussion point on our show. And I
Yep.
think we both voiced our opinion and our displeasure with A, what was said, and B, what he's actually not representing in terms of what you and I would like to see as a credible opposition leader. He's been failing on multiple fronts. So let's hope smarter heads prevail. As he goes into this leadership review, and I'm really hoping that they actually put somebody in charge that has got the whereabouts of what's going on in the world, what's going on in our country, and what our country actually needs. So. Sorry, Gary, I brought it up, but I'm happy I brought it up.
All right, we have one more comment here, and it's on PP. So let's bring up the comments. There we go. All right, so if PP was in power, we would already be standing up every morning and pledging allegiance, and that's from Monel.
Mm-hmm.
Monel, given the response of the other day, yeah, you may not be so far off the mark. So if you want to wrap this up, Eddie, then we'll get ready to move on to hockey.
Another interesting session. So look, Gary, Canada may be heading into 2026 with a government that looks stable on paper but fragile in reality. You know what? Like we said, a single resignation or a floor crossing could absolutely change the dynamics of this country's direction. Especially at a moment when strong leadership abroad may suddenly be required. Still to come, we talk hockey, Gary.
All righty. And you know what? It is the new year, and a new year is a great time to get a new solid internet connection. Eddie and I recommend eBox with its high-speed, unlimited fiber connections. Click the affiliate link below and use one of the 2 promo codes for a special offer if you sign up.
And the World Junior Hockey Championship is in the books, and the storylines actually do matter on the ice and beyond. I'm going to break that down. I'm going to break down what we learned, what stood out, and what it means for Hockey Canada going forward. Then I'll turn my attention to the NHL as mid-season hits and midpoint and contenders begin to separate from the pretenders. The stretch drive is now. Hockey isn't just entertainment in Canada, as our Canadian viewers know. It's our identity and momentum. The World Juniors shape expectations, and the NHL's second half tells us which teams are real contenders, and markets lock in for the stretch run. Gary,
Right.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been like I said, Manel and I are wintering down south, and in Mexico, trying to find the necessary telecast to watch the games has been a little challenging. But you know what? I managed to catch a game or two of the World Junior Hockey Championships, which were being held in the United States in Minnesota. And Canada and the United States are always up there in terms of potential candidates to make it to the semifinals and finals. And there were some surprises and disappointments in this year's hockey tournament. Gary, one of the biggest things that I've seen on social media and on mainstream media is about the abysmal attendance of the hockey tournament in Minnesota, which is pretty much the hockey state of the United States of America. Up until the semifinal games, even some of the semifinal games, the attendance was maybe 5,000-6,000 people in an arena that can hold 15,000 very easily. So attendance was just completely abysmal and disappointing to me as a hockey fan, especially in the state of Minnesota, that there wasn't a more solid attendance to support these young men with aspirations to play professional hockey, both here in North America and in Europe. So that was one of the storylines, is the continued abysmal attendance. I mean, guaranteed, Gary, if these games were held in cities in Canada, arenas would be 75% full just for the preliminary rounds, and if you got into the playoffs, they'd be sold-out arenas. So, as I said during the introduction, yeah, Canada is a passion and and a religion here for us, and it shapes our culture and our well-being in a lot of cases. But it's just too bad these young men didn't have a bigger attendance base in the United States.
Eddie,
Another story.
it kind of makes you
Yeah, go
wonder
ahead.
though, like they continue to push expansion of NHL teams in the US. And
Yeah.
yet what are they drawing overall?
Yeah, a couple of months ago, I checked out attendance levels in the United States, and except for some of the major franchises like New York, your Los Angeles Kings, Detroit Red Wings are not selling out anymore, even though they're doing half decent. The Colorado Avalanche are selling out. The Bruins typically sell out, but other than that, not a hell of a lot of people in the stands. The two-time winning Florida Panther champions, Stanley Cup champions, the arena's more than half empty, and these are the reigning Stanley Cup champions. So, what gives? I agree with you. And then hockey is not a sport of choice for Americans in general. Like, I don't know, the sport is too fast for them to follow. Maybe follow baseball. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be catching on in terms of what Gary Bettman would like to see in terms of expansion. And get this, Gary, I saw an article that the NHL is considering accepting a request from a different ownership group to bring back the Arizona Coyotes into Phoenix. Literally. So how much is Bettman going to be pocketing by accommodating another franchise in Phoenix that just got moved to Utah? And he's going to completely ignore Quebec. He's going to completely ignore Hamilton, and Toronto can do with a second team as well. But yeah, he's got to go. We got to get fresh blood in there. But I'm really happy you brought that point up, Gary.
Yeah, he's a real piece of work.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. And you know what? I've never seen a commissioner of professional sports presenting a trophy or doing some kind of conversation in an arena with a microphone in his hands where he's just relentlessly booed. I've never seen that, and it continues to be the case for Gary Bettman, especially here in Canada. So yeah, just to give you an update on the championships, the World Junior Championships, they're over, of course. So one of the other storylines was, believe it or not, Team Canada's questionable sportsmanlike conduct this year. When they played a preliminary game against their nemesis Czechia, at the end of the game, they skated off the ice. They didn't even shake hands with them. You know what? And that comes down to a problem with the management and the coach of the Canadian team. The kids are saying, well, we didn't know we had to go shake hands. Look, I'm sorry. There was quite a few players on that roster that know very well that you have to go shake hands after an international game because they did it last year. So I don't know what the hell happened there, but anyway, that was just completely wrong. I was very disappointed as a sports fan and a Canadian that they didn't shake hands after the game. So maybe this has everything to do with the Canadian team having an axe to grind before even the puck drop for the tournament. I don't know if you knew about this, Gary, but Canada, over the last 2 years, were eliminated in the playoff round by Czechia. They didn't even make it to the finals. So maybe there was some animosity that got passed over to this preliminary game against Czechia, and they didn't shake their hands. But yeah, they got eliminated by them for the last 2 years. And another headline in this story is that Canada went into the playoffs, and they went through the preliminary round undefeated. And in most cases, they scored 6 to 7 goals a game. So, the Canadians came in with a chip on their shoulder, and they meant business. So Canada makes it into the playoffs. So does the United States of America. So here we are into the quarterfinals, and I jumped for joy when this happened. In the quarterfinals, USA loses to Finland 4-3. Nothing against these young men, but just the fact that the United States lost to another country, I was very pleased to hear that. So yeah, USA loses in the quarterfinals to Finland 4-3, and Canada wins over Slovakia with a convincing 7-1 win. The game wasn't even close. And as a matter of fact, this win by Finland and win by Canada, it actually set up a return grudge match in the semifinals. Sweden versus Finland, and Sweden takes it 4-3. In the other quarterfinal, Canada versus Czechia. Czechia, for a third year in a row, eliminates Canada. They take the game 6-4. I didn't watch the game, Gary, but I watched a lot of reviews and replays of the game. It seemed to me that the score was 6-4, but Czechia wanted it more, and they seemed to outplay Canada in a lot of areas. So congratulations to them. Canada gets eliminated in the semifinals. So that sets up the bronze medal match. Canada versus Finland, and Canada wins the bronze medal, 6-3 over Finland. The gold medal game, Gary, did not go to Czechia. Sweden beats Czechia 4-2 to take the gold medal. Congratulations to these young men. Congratulations to all the players from all countries that went there for putting in an effort and representing their countries proudly. And you're speaking about 15 to 18 to 19-year-olds, Gary. So, young men, still a long way to go in terms of their career and maturing as young men, and playing on an international stage is an extremely positive experience for all of them. And you know what? Hockey Canada has to go back to their drawing board and get a better understanding on what it is that these Europeans are doing better in terms of training their young professionals to compete at a professional level, on a professional level, and on the international stage. And maybe Hockey Canada has to look at their management infrastructure, their training programs, how they're promoting programs. With finances are very important, and maybe it comes down to a case of changing the coaching staff. I believe it's Dale Hunter who's the head coach. He's been there for the last 4 or 5 years. I think they've won once out of the last 5 years, so maybe there's a change that's required. So that's it for junior hockey, Gary.
Wow.
Any questions on that? Any comments?
No, I agree with you in the fact that it looks like some kind of change is needed. The skating off the ice and not shaking hands.
Yeah,
it's a reflection of the individuals themselves because they know better. But to me, it's also a reflection on the coaching and management staff. So it almost seems, in some respects, that the desire isn't there. They're going through the motions.
Yeah. There's
and
a
I
bad
saw a
seed or a bad
comment.
apple.
Yeah, and I saw a comment, and it looked like a number of people were agreeing, and all the comment said was, bronze not good enough. So, yeah, I think probably we're coming to a crossroads with hockey in this country, and probably that's going to require some navel gazing. Do you remember, it was back in maybe the 70s, late 70s, we went through kind of it seems to me, I remember a sort of a similar soul-searching exercise as far as our junior hockey and our Olympic hockey was concerned. And I think probably we're at that point again where we have to have a look at what, as you say, other countries are doing and how they're doing it, and what we're doing and how we can, let's look at their best practices and incorporate some of them that'll work with us, and just do a sweep all the way around. Because sometimes you're right, especially in competitive situations, doesn't matter what sport it is, or even in the corporate world. You're in a competitive situation, and eventually you burn out, and you just become dull, right?
Yeah, and I think part of the problem too is TSN, which pretty much owns the broadcast rights on these international tournaments. They just completely overhype the importance of getting a gold medal to these young men. So right from the get-go, if you don't get a gold medal, you forget it, man. You guys are history. You don't care about you. That's, you know what? That's unfair pressure to put on these guys. Yes, they know they have
Yeah.
to win, and all of a sudden you're playing hockey for free basically, and you're being expected to win a gold medal or else type of thing. Like it's just the bar is just set way too high, and it could be just that, a simple situation where we're going to be proud of you regardless of the situation. We're going to be proud of you whether you won or lost and you tried your best. Okay.
Yeah.
I doubt very much Canada is going to fare poorly in an international tournament, but you can't put that pressure of an expectation that they have to win a gold medal.
And the other side of it is, Eddie, let's not forget it is a game. And it doesn't matter if you're 16 or 56 playing in a gentleman's league. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
That so often now is left out of the equation. Even at work, are you having fun? If you're not having fun, after a while you're going through the motions and that's it. And going through the motions in a competitive sport, not good enough.
And it could be and you could be hitting the nail right on the head right now. They might be just completely disconnected and disillusioned to this whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, the young men, you got to lay the pressure off, and I blame TSN for a lot of this overhype about a junior team. So Gary, we're going to get on to the next piece. I won't take too long. I just want to give our viewers and you an update on the NHL as we have approached the mid-season. So
let me guess, this involves the Montreal Canadiens.
How did you guess? Well, let me tell you. So we've approached actually we've hit mid-season, and here's where we stand right now, Gary. And I had actually said 3 or 4 of the 7 Canadian teams would be in a playoff position by mid-season. Boy, was I wrong. Right now, Gary, we have 2 teams in Canada that are in a playoff position. By no means secured, but are in a playoff position. The Montreal Canadiens today in the Eastern Conference are in 4th place out of 18 teams, or 18 or 16 teams, out of 16 teams, yeah. So Canadiens are in 4th place with 52 points. And in the Western Division, the Edmonton Oilers, after starting off very slowly, are in 5th position. So those are the only 2 teams that are in a playoff position. Everyone else, Gary, is in the Western Division is not even close. In the Eastern Division, your beloved Maple Leafs are in 11th place, and the Ottawa Senators are in 15th place. Now, the Eastern Conference is so tight. You have the Montreal Canadiens with 52 points, are 4th in the division, and the Leafs 11th with 47 points. Gary, we're only talking about 5 points here.
Yeah, that's not bad.
A losing streak there, a winning streak
tight.
there.
Yeah.
Every team in that division is within striking range. So that division, when it's going to come to the grind of the last few weeks in the NHL, they're going to go into the playoffs beat up and worn out because it's so tough and so tight, which is great for hockey. So you know what? So far, so good. The Canadiens are doing well. The Maple Leafs are on again and off again. They do continue to struggle. Austin Matthews is still struggling without Mitch Marner, and maybe them putting the C on his sweater is having a negative effect on his mental psyche going into these hockey games. Because, I mean, as ravenous as the Montreal press is on the Montreal Canadiens, the Toronto media is absolutely hyena focused on the Leafs, and the captain has to step up before a microphone and explain, whether they lose a game or two, and what can you do better when you win a game? I mean, I don't think he's. I thought it was a mistake giving him the seat on his sweater, and I was not proven wrong there. So hopefully things will turn around for the Leafs and the Senators. The Senators are also within striking range. Now here's the kicker: I was completely wrong. I had said the Edmonton Oilers are going to make it into the playoffs. I had also predicted that the Winnipeg Jets, last year's President Trophy winner, meaning the team that had the most points hitting out of the regular season, are dead last in the Western Division. Winnipeg only has 35 points, Gary. What a fall from grace. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They're just way, way too far. And I was predicting the Vancouver Canucks after last year's dressing room turmoil and addressing that. They're only in 15th place in the Western Division. I think they're out. And the Calgary Flames are in 14th. So we have 3 Canadian teams rounding out the bottom spots of the Western Division. Flames in 14th, Canucks in 15th, Winnipeg Jets in 16th. I think they're pretty much done for the season. The story of the NHL this year, Gary, the Colorado Avalanche. We're 40 some odd games into the season. They have only lost 2 games.
What?
These guys have only lost 2 games all season, Gary. These are the perennial contenders to win a Stanley Cup. They've only lost 2 games. Unbelievable. Yeah, I can hear your jaw dropping. Only 2 games, Gary. If only the Canadians and the Toronto Maple Leafs can play like that, but they got their stuff together there. No question about it. Wow. Only 2 games, I'm telling you. So that's it for the NHL. Any predictions, which I know what the next question is going to be. My prediction for Canadian teams making into the playoffs, Canadians will, the Oilers will. I also believe the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to find a way and make it into the playoffs. How far they go, I don't know, but I really believe the Leafs should be able to make it. They just gotta get their dressing room in check, and we'll see what goes on from there.
Yeah, and
just briefly, in preparation for the Olympics, Gary, Team Canada has selected their players. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but it's pretty much, I think 75% of the roster is the same team that played in the Four Nations tournament last year, which Canada won, beating the United States in overtime. So they pretty much sustained their core. There are 5 players that were not invited back, and of course they're extremely disappointed by being dropped out of the of playing this year. Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki made it, so I'll just leave it off with that. And as a matter of fact, I was looking at the B roster, if you want to call it. Team Canada could have put 2 teams in the Olympics, and they both would have been contenders to go far. And again, as Canadians, Gary, you and I expect these guys to win the gold medal, right? But they're professionals, they're seasoned professionals. You and I, when we go watch their games and buy their merchandise, we pay their salaries, we expect them to win. So right now, as it seems, the Olympics are still on. The National Hockey League Players Association has still not 100% committed to it because that damn arena in Italy is still not ready.
Yeah.
They still haven't completed it. And of course, with an ice rink that's 4 feet shorter than regulation NHL, let alone Olympic size. So the chairman of the Olympic Installation Committee and the director of operations in Italy are saying the games will go on. Hockey will be played in Italy. So we're going to see how they're going to figure that one out, whether they're going to be moving it to other arenas or, maybe offsetting it to Switzerland or Austria to host a few games. I don't know.
Talk about deja vu. Does that not sound like the Montreal Summer Olympics?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, so look at this. The Montreal Olympics are the only Olympics in history where their venues were not finished, where the construction wasn't finished by the time the Olympics started. Sochi Olympics came close, but they got it under the wire. Oh boy, it doesn't look good for Italy right now. So I wish them well, and I hope they get it done.
Yeah. Alrighty, and with that, that's a wrap on Night Talk Canada, episode 65. It's been a long one, Eddie, but a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, and Gary, you know what? As where global powers play, we're global. Oh my God, my mouth is gone. Where global power plays meet Canadian reality. If you found value in tonight's conversation, remember to like, subscribe, and follow follow, and share the stream. I am Eddie Takalik. Good night, everybody.
And I'm Gary MacDonald. Honest, unfiltered Canadian. The conversation we should be having. Night Talk Canada returns in 7 days. Good night.